The classroom went dead silent. Every single student turned to look. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? Those 8 words changed everything. Not just for Maya Redfeather, the 16-year-old Native American girl who said them, but for every person in that room, for the whole school, maybe even for the whole town. But wait, I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you the whole story from the beginning. And trust me, by the end of this, you're gonna be crying, cheering, and maybe even standing up in your own living room giving a slow clap. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you believe every culture deserves respect. Subscribe for more incredible true stories that will blow your mind. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from people all over the world. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? This is what really happened. It was a regular Tuesday morning at Lincoln High School in Oklahoma. Maya Redfeather sat in the back row of Mr. Peterson's history class like she always did. She was a quiet girl, kept to herself mostly. Long black hair that her grandma braided for her every morning. Dark eyes that saw everything but said nothing. Mr. Peterson was teaching about the discovery of America again. Same old story Maya had heard a million times. Christopher Columbus, the brave explorer. The savage Indians who needed to be civilized. The wonderful progress that came with European settlement. Maya's pencil snapped in her hand. Oops, she whispered, but inside, something else had snapped too. 16 years of hearing her people called savages. 16 years of teachers skipping over thousands of years of Native American history like it didn't matter. 16 years of being the only Native kid in class while everyone talked about her ancestors like they were animals. Mr. Peterson kept talking. The Native Americans were primitive people. They didn't have real governments, real religions, or real education systems. When the Europeans arrived, they brought civilization to this wild land. That's when Maya's hand went up. First time in 3 years. Mr. Peterson looked surprised. Yes, Maya. She stood up. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was steady. Mr. Peterson, my grandmother speaks 5 languages. My grandfather was a code talker in World War II. He helped America win the war using our primitive language that the enemy couldn't crack. My aunt is a doctor. My uncle is a lawyer. We have our own courts, our own schools, our own government on the reservation. The class was staring now. Some kids had their phones out, secretly recording. Mr. Peterson's face got red. Maya, please sit down. We're talking about historical facts here. No, Maya said, we're talking about lies, and I am tired of it. Excuse me. Mr. Peterson's voice got that dangerous teacher tone. Maya took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would change everything. I said I'm tired of the lies. My people had democracy before America existed. We had medicine, mathematics, astronomy. We had cities bigger than London. We had trade routes across the whole continent. But you stand there and call us primitive. Maya, you're being disruptive. Sit down or go to the principal's office. That's when Maya said it. Those 8 words that would echo through the halls, through the town, through social media, and eventually through the whole country. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? The silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mr. Peterson's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The kid with the phone nearly dropped it. Because that's what you're teaching, Maya continued. Every day, you stand up there and teach that my ancestors were stupid. That everything we did was wrong. That we needed white people to save us. So I'm asking you straight up, do you think being Native American makes me dumb? Mr. Peterson's face went from red to purple. How dare you? I've been teaching for 20 years. And how many of those years did you spend learning about real Native American history? Maya interrupted. Not the fairy tales in these textbooks. The real history. Did you know we had a constitution before America? Did you know we invented tons of things you use every day? Did you know we had one of the most advanced calendars in the world? That's enough. Principal's office. Now. Maya picked up her backpack, but before she left, she turned to the class. Ask yourselves why he's so mad. If he was teaching the truth, would he be this angry about questions? She walked out head high, but this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The video goes viral by lunchtime. The video was everywhere. Native American student destroys racist teacher was trending on every platform. Millions of views, thousands of comments. People arguing, debating, supporting Maya, attacking her, defending Mr. Peterson, calling for him to be fired. Maya sat in the principal's office, her phone blowing up with notifications. Principal Johnson, a tired-looking man with kind eyes, sat across from her. "Maya," he said softly, "I watched the video. She braced herself for suspension, maybe even expulsion, and I think you raised some valid points." Maya's eyes widened. "You do. I do, but the way you did it. There are better ways to handle these situations." "I tried the better ways," Maya said. "I wrote essays. I asked politely to include Native perspectives. I brought in books." Nobody listened. Nobody ever listens until you make noise. Principal Johnson leaned back in his chair. "What do you want to happen here, Maya?" "I want the truth taught. I want our history included. I want Native kids to not feel ashamed of who they are. I want all kids to know the real story, not just the whitewashed version." That's a tall order. It shouldn't be. It should be basic. The principal's phone rang. He looked at it, frowned. It's the superintendent, and the news wants a statement. "Maya, this has gotten bigger than just our school." That's when Maya realized she had started something she couldn't stop. And that's when the real journey began. The backlash the next days were hell, pure hell. Some people called Maya a hero. Native American organizations reached out to support her. Students from reservations across the country sent messages saying she spoke for them too. But the hate was worse. Her family's phone rang nonstop with death threats. People found their address and sent horrible letters. Online, trolls attacked everything about her, her looks, her family, her grades, everything. Mr. Peterson went on the local news. "I've dedicated my life to education," he said, looking sad and hurt. To be attacked by a student like this, to be called racist when I've always treated all students equally. It's heartbreaking. The school board called an emergency meeting. Parents showed up angry, some supporting Maya, others demanding she be expelled. It was chaos. Maya's mom held her while she cried that night. "I didn't mean for it to get this big, Mom. I just wanted him to stop lying about us." "Baby," her mom said, stroking her hair. "Sometimes the truth is the most dangerous thing you can speak. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't speak it." Her dad was more practical. "You started a war, Maya. Now we need to figure out how to win it." Her grandmother, though, she was the one who gave Maya strength. "You know what your name means in our language?" she asked. Maya shook her head. "It means one who creates illusions. But you, granddaughter, you're doing the opposite. You're destroying illusions. You're showing truth. That's sacred work. But sacred work doesn't make going back to school any easier." Walking through fire the day Maya returned to school was like walking through fire. Some students clapped when they saw her. Others turned their backs. Teachers watched her like she was a bomb about to explode. In Mr. Peterson's class, there was a substitute teacher. Nobody knew where Mr. Peterson was. Some said on leave, others said he quit. But the substitute teacher did something unexpected. She started the class by saying, "Before we continue with the curriculum, I think we need to address what happened here. Maya, would you be willing to teach us about your perspective on American history?" Maya's heart stopped. "Teach? I am just a student." Sometimes the best teachers are those who live the history, not just read about it. With shaking hands, Maya stood up, and she began to speak. Not with anger this time, but with passion. She talked about the Trail of Tears, not the sanitized version, but what her great-great-grandmother survived. She talked about boarding schools where Native kids were beaten for speaking their own languages. She talked about treaties broken, land stolen, cultures nearly destroyed. But she also talked about survival, about how her people held on to their languages, their ceremonies, their stories despite everything, about the beauty of Native cultures, about the contributions Native Americans made not just in the past but today. Some students cried. Others asked questions, real questions, not mean ones. Even the kids who had been against her seemed to be listening. When class ended, something had shifted. Not everything, but something. The invitation 2 weeks later, Maya got a letter that changed everything. It was from the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. Dear Ms. Redfeather, we have been following your story with great interest. Your courage in speaking truth to power has inspired countless young Native Americans across the country. We would like to invite you to speak at our annual Youth Leadership Conference. Maya had to read it 3 times before it sank in. They wanted her to speak to hundreds of Native youth from across the country. Her, Maya Redfeather, the girl who just wanted her teacher to stop lying. But that wasn't the only invitation. Harvard University reached out. Yale, Stanford, all wanting to know about this young woman who had stood up for truth. Scholarship offers started coming in. The State Board of Education called a special hearing about history curriculum. They wanted Maya to testify about her experiences and suggestions for change. Even some celebrities started speaking up, sharing Maya's story, calling for better education about Native American history. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. The letter from Mr. Peterson. 1 month after the incident, Maya found a letter in her locker. She recognized the handwriting immediately. Maya, I've spent the last month thinking about what you said. At first, I was angry. How dare a student challenge me like that? How dare you question my teaching? But then I started researching, really researching. Not just the textbooks I've used for 20 years, but real sources, Native sources, historical documents, archaeological evidence. You were right. I've been teaching lies, not because I am a bad person, but because I never questioned what I was taught. I never looked deeper. I never asked whose voice was missing from the story. I am sorry. I am returning to teaching next week, but I am returning different. I've spent the last month at the reservation, learning from Native educators. I've rewritten my entire curriculum. I've thrown out the old textbooks. You asked me if I thought your culture made you dumb. The answer is no. Your culture makes you strong. It makes you resilient. It makes you connected to thousands of years of wisdom that I am only beginning to understand. Thank you for having the courage to speak up. Thank you for refusing to let me continue in ignorance. Thank you for being the teacher I should have been. Mr. Peterson P.S. I would be honored if you would help me design the new curriculum. Our students deserve to learn from someone who truly understands. Maya cried reading that letter. Not sad tears, but something else. Something like hope. The movement grows. What started in one classroom in Oklahoma became a nationwide movement. Teach True Truth started trending. Native students from Alaska to Florida started speaking up in their classrooms. Teachers started questioning their curricula. School boards started hiring Native consultants. Maya got invited to speak at the United Nations Youth Forum. Imagine that, a girl who just wanted her history told correctly, speaking to young people from every country in the world. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The backlash continued too. Some schools banned discussions about controversial history. Some parents pulled their kids out of schools that started teaching real Native history. Some politicians used Maya's story to push their own agendas. Maya learned that changing the world is messy. It's not like in movies where you give one good speech and everyone changes their minds. It's daily work. It's facing criticism. It's dealing with people who twist your words. It's staying strong when you want to give up. The hardest test 6 months after the classroom incident, Maya faced her hardest test yet. She was invited to debate on national television against a famous historian who had written books claiming Native Americans were better off after European colonization. Her parents were worried. "You don't have to do this, baby," her mom said. "You've already done so much." But Maya knew she had to, not for herself, but for every Native kid watching, for every Native elder whose stories had been silenced, for her ancestors who couldn't speak. The night of the debate, Maya wore her grandmother's turquoise necklace. She carried her grandfather's eagle feather in her pocket. She whispered a prayer in her native language. The historian came out swinging. He had charts, graphs, statistics. He talked about technology, medicine, democracy, all the gifts of colonization. Maya listened calmly. Then she responded not with anger but with truth. "You talk about gifts," she said. "Let me tell you about gifts. Before colonization, my ancestors gave the world corn, potatoes, tomatoes, chocolate, and dozens of other foods that keep humanity alive today. We gave the world sustainable agriculture, sophisticated mathematics, advanced astronomy. We gave the world the concept of democracy that America was founded on. But more than that," she continued, "we gave the world a different way of seeing. We saw the earth as our mother, not our property. We saw animals as our relatives, not our resources. We saw the future 7 generations ahead, not just the next quarterly profit. You say we're better off now, on reservations with the highest poverty rates in America, with our languages dying, with our sacred sites destroyed, with our children still facing discrimination in schools that teach them their ancestors were savages. No, sir, we're not better off. We're survivors. We're still here despite everything. And we're taking back our stories. We're teaching our languages. We're reviving our ceremonies. We're raising warriors like me who won't let you lie anymore about who we are." The audience erupted in applause. The historian tried to respond, but his rehearsed talking points crumbled against Maya's lived truth. The ripple effect. A year after Maya asked that question in Mr. Peterson's class, the changes were real and measurable. 12 states had revised their history curricula to include accurate Native American history. Over 1,000 schools had hired Native educators or consultants. Native language programs increased by 300%. College applications from Native students rose by 40%. Thousands of teachers attended workshops on decolonizing education, but the numbers only told part of the story. The real change was in the Native kids who suddenly felt proud instead of ashamed. The non-Native kids who learned their country's real history and became allies instead of ignorant. The teachers like Mr. Peterson who transformed from unconscious perpetuators of lies to passionate truth-tellers. Maya received thousands of letters from a 7-year-old Navajo girl who said she now raised her hand in class, from a 70-year-old Cherokee man who cried because finally someone was telling the truth, from white teachers apologizing and asking for resources, from Latino and Black students saying Maya inspired them to speak up about their histories too. The price of truth, but truth-telling comes with a price. Maya's family had to move twice because of threats. She had to have security at speaking events. She lost friends who couldn't handle her fame or her message. She struggled with depression and anxiety from the constant pressure. Some nights, she wished she had just stayed quiet, kept her head down, graduated without making waves. But then she would get another letter, another message from a kid saying she changed their life, another news story about a school changing its curriculum, another invitation to speak, to teach, to inspire. Her grandmother reminded her of an old story. The eagle flies highest alone, she said, but from up there it can see everything. It can show others the way. The transformation. By senior year, Maya wasn't the same quiet girl in the back row. She had spoken at hundreds of events, testified before Congress, written a book, started a nonprofit to get accurate Native history resources into schools. But the biggest transformation was in her own school. Lincoln High became a model for inclusive education. Native students from the nearby reservation started attending, knowing they would be respected. The history department was completely revamped. Cultural exchange programs were started. Even the mascot was changed from an offensive caricature to something chosen with Native input. And Mr. Peterson, he became one of the strongest advocates for truth in education. He and Maya co-taught special seminars. He admitted his past mistakes publicly and used his story to help other teachers transform. At graduation, Maya was valedictorian. When she stood at the podium, looking out at her classmates, her family, her community, she thought about that moment 2 years ago when she had stood up in class. 2 years ago, I asked a question, she began. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? Today, I have the answer. No, my culture doesn't make me dumb. My culture makes me brilliant. It connects me to thousands of years of innovation, wisdom, and resistance. It gives me the strength to speak truth when everyone wants me to be quiet. It gives me the vision to see a better future and the courage to fight for it. But here's what I learned. Everyone's culture makes them brilliant. Every one of us carries stories, knowledge, wisdom from our ancestors. The problem isn't our cultures. The problem is when we're only taught one culture's version of history, when we're only told one story. So I challenge you, class of 2024, tell your stories. Question the narratives. Seek the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Speak up even when your voice shakes. Because the world needs all of our truths, all of our stories, all of our brilliance. Remember, they can try to bury us, but they forget we are seeds. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. The next chapter, Maya went to Stanford on a full scholarship. She double majored in education and Native American studies. But every summer, she came home to teach at culture camps, to work with young Native students, to continue the movement she had started. The girl who had asked one question in history class became Dr. Maya Redfeather, the youngest secretary of Indigenous education ever appointed. She revolutionized how American history was taught across the entire country. But she never forgot that it all started with 8 words and the courage to speak them. Years later, when young activists asked her for advice, she always said the same thing. Your voice matters, your truth matters, your culture matters. Don't let anyone tell you different. And when they try to silence you, speak louder. When they try to erase you, shine brighter. When they try to make you small, stand taller. Because somewhere, there's another kid sitting in the back row, holding a breaking pencil, waiting for someone to show them it's okay to speak up. Be that person. Ask the hard questions. Tell the true stories. Change the world one classroom at a time. The legacy 20 years later, American schools looked completely different. Native history wasn't a footnote. It was woven throughout the curriculum. Native languages were taught alongside Spanish and French. Native authors were read in English class. Native scientists were studied in STEM. But more than that, the whole approach to education had changed. Instead of one story, students learned many stories. Instead of memorizing facts, they learned to question, research, think critically. Instead of erasing cultures, schools celebrated them. And it all started because one girl refused to let her teacher lie about her people anymore. Maya, now a grandmother herself, still visited schools. But now, when she asked students what they knew about Native Americans, hands shot up with real knowledge, real respect, real understanding. One day, a young Native girl approached her after a talk. "Doctor Redfeather," she said shyly, "I want to be brave like you, but I'm scared." Maya knelt down to look her in the eyes. "You know what? I was scared too. My hands were shaking when I stood up in that classroom. My voice cracked when I asked that question. But I did it anyway, because being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing what's right anyway." She handed the girl an eagle feather. "This was my grandfather's. He carried it through World War II. He was scared too, but he served his country, the same country that had tried to destroy his culture. That's courage. That's strength. That's who you come from." The girl took the feather with reverent hands. "What if they get mad at me?" "They will," Maya said honestly. "Some people get very mad when you tell the truth, but you know what? The truth doesn't need their permission, and neither do you. The call to action. So here's my question to you, watching this right now. What lies are being told in your classroom, your workplace, your community? What truths are being buried? What stories are being erased? You don't have to be Native American to speak up against lies. You don't have to be a student to demand better education. You don't have to be famous to make a difference. All you have to do is care about truth. All you have to do is have the courage to ask the hard questions. All you have to do is refuse to let lies be taught as facts. Maybe you're a parent who can go to school board meetings. Maybe you're a teacher who can change your curriculum. Maybe you're a student who can speak up in class. Maybe you're just someone who can share true stories on social media, support Native-owned businesses, or donate to organizations fighting for educational justice. The point is, Maya's story isn't over. It continues with each of us. Every time we choose truth over comfort, justice over silence, courage over fear, we honor her legacy and the legacy of all the truth-tellers who came before. Remember this: do you think my culture makes me dumb? 8 words that changed everything. Not because they were magical, but because they were honest. Because they forced people to confront their prejudices. Because they refused to let lies hide behind tradition and authority. Your culture doesn't make you dumb. Your culture makes you unique, strong, connected. Whether you're a Native American, African American, Latino, Asian, or any beautiful blend, your culture is not a weakness to overcome but a strength to celebrate. But for too long, our education system has taught otherwise. For too long, one story has been sold as the only story. For too long, too many children have sat in classrooms feeling ashamed of who they are because of the lies being taught about their people. That ends with us. That ends now. That ends when we all become Maya Redfeathers in our own ways, standing up and saying, "Enough, teach the truth, all of it." The final truth: as I finish this story, I want you to know something. This could happen tomorrow. In any classroom, in any school, in any town. All it takes is one person brave enough to stand up and ask the uncomfortable questions. Maybe that person is you. Maybe you're sitting there right now, thinking about all the times you've wanted to speak up but didn't. All the times you've heard lies taught as truth. All the times you've seen injustice and stayed silent because it was easier. Maya Redfeather was just a teenager. She wasn't special. She wasn't chosen. She wasn't fearless. She was just tired of lies, and in her exhaustion she found her voice. Your voice is waiting too. Your truth is needed too. Your courage can change the world too. The question isn't whether you'll face opposition, you will. The question isn't whether it'll be hard, it will. The question isn't whether you'll make mistakes, you will. The only question that matters is, will you speak? Because somewhere there's a kid like Maya was, sitting in the back row, holding a breaking pencil, waiting for someone to show them it's okay to demand truth. Waiting for someone to prove that their culture, their history, their existence matters. Don't let them wait forever. Stand up, speak out, change the world, just like Maya Redfeather did, just like you can too. The beginning of everything, they say. Every ending is just a new beginning in disguise. Maya's story didn't end with her becoming Secretary of Education or changing how history is taught. It began there. It began with every student who now learns true history, with every teacher who now questions their textbooks, with every parent who now demands better for their children, with every school board that now includes diverse voices, with every young person who now stands up and says, "That's not true, and here's why." But most of all, it began with you, the person reading this, the person who now knows that one voice can echo through generations, that one question can topple towers of lies, that one teenager's courage can reshape a nation's understanding of itself. You see, Maya's real power wasn't in her anger or even her knowledge. It was in her refusal to accept lies as truth just because they'd been repeated for generations. It was in her belief that she deserved better, that all students deserved better, that truth deserved better. And now you know the story. Now you've seen how one question, "Do you think my culture makes me dumb?" became a revolution. Now you understand that change doesn't require permission, just courage. So what will you do with this knowledge? What lies will you challenge? What truths will you tell? What questions will you ask that make the powerful uncomfortable and the silenced hopeful? Maya Redfeather is waiting to see. Her ancestors are waiting to see. The future is waiting to see. Will you be the next person to stand up in the classroom of life and say, "Excuse me, but that's not true"? The world is listening. And your voice, yes, yours, might just be the one that changes everything. Remember, they tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. Now grow, now bloom, now change the world, just like Maya did, just like we all can together. If this story moved you, share it. If it inspired you, act on it. If it made you think, keep thinking. Because that's how change happens, one person, one story, one action at a time. And remember, this isn't just about Native American history. This is about all the histories that have been hidden, all the voices that have been silenced, all the truths that have been buried. Whether it's Black history, Latino history, Asian history, LGBTQ+ history, women's history, or the history of any marginalized group, we all deserve to have our stories told truthfully. Be a Maya Redfeather for your community. Ask the hard questions. Demand the real answers. Accept nothing less than truth, because our cultures don't make us dumb. They make us powerful. And it's time the world learned that lesson. Teach true truth, Maya Redfeather. Our stories matter. The night before everything changed, let me take you back further. The night before Maya asked that question, she couldn't sleep. She lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her grandmother's soft snoring from the next room. On her wall hung a photo of her great-great-grandmother, taken in 1890. A strong woman with eyes that had seen too much. A survivor of the Trail of Tears. A woman who had walked hundreds of miles while soldiers pointed guns at her back, while her children died of cold and hunger, while everything she knew was ripped away. Maya often talked to that photo when she couldn't sleep. "I am tired, Grandma," she whispered that night. "I am tired of pretending it's okay. I am tired of sitting there while Mr. Peterson tells lies about us. I am tired of the other kids looking at me like I am some kind of museum display every time Native Americans come up in class." The photo, of course, didn't answer, but Maya felt something, like a warmth, like a presence. Like all her ancestors were gathering around her, waiting. Her little brother, Tommy, just 10 years old, had come home crying that day. Kids at school had played cowboys and Indians at recess. Guess who they made him be? Guess what they said Indians did? Guess how they whooped and hollered and acted like animals while the teachers just watched and smiled? That was the final straw for Maya. Not the years of her own pain, but seeing it start with Tommy, seeing another generation being taught to be ashamed. She got up and walked to her desk, pulled out her history textbook, flipped to the chapter on westward expansion. Every page was like a slap in the face. Happy pioneers bringing civilization. Savage Indians attacking innocent settlers. The empty land that was discovered and tamed. Empty. Her people had been here for over 10,000 years. Discovered. You can't discover a place where millions of people already live. Tamed. They want to call sustainable living and harmony with nature wild. Maya grabbed a red pen and started writing in the margins. Truth next to every lie. Facts next to every myth. By the time she was done, the textbook looked like it was bleeding truth. That's when she made her decision. Tomorrow she would speak. Tomorrow she would stand. Tomorrow she would fight back with the most powerful weapon she had, truth. She didn't know it would change her life. She didn't know it would change thousands of lives. She just knew she couldn't sit silent for one more day. The morning walk. The next morning, Maya walked to school slower than usual. Each step felt heavy, like she was already carrying the weight of what was about to happen. She passed the gas station where Mr. Chen always gave her a free candy bar on Fridays. He waved, and she waved back, wondering if he'd still be nice to her after today. She passed the church where Mrs. Williams taught Sunday school. Would she still smile at Maya after the news got out? She passed the basketball court where the guys played pickup games. Would they still let her shoot hoops with them? Change comes with a cost. Maya knew this. Her grandmother had taught her. When you disturb the comfortable, they will try to make you uncomfortable. But comfort built on lies isn't real comfort anyway. It's just delayed pain. As she got closer to school, she saw other native kids. Sarah Crow Dog from the sophomore class, James Running Bear from the football team, little Annie Two Stars from the 7th grade. They all did what native kids in that school always did, kept their heads down, stayed quiet, tried to blend in. Maya used to do the same thing. It was safer, easier, less painful, but safe and easy hadn't protected Tommy from those kids at recess. Safe and easy hadn't stopped the lies in the textbooks. Safe and easy was just another word for surrender. She caught Sarah's eye and gave her a small nod. Something in that nod must have communicated what was coming, because Sarah's eyes widened. She grabbed Maya's arm as she passed. "Whatever you're planning, be careful," Sarah whispered. "Careful hasn't worked," Maya whispered back. "Time to try something else." Inside Mr. Peterson's mind now, to really understand what happened, you need to understand Mr. Peterson. He wasn't a monster. That's the thing about racism, about cultural violence. It's not always done by evil people twirling their mustaches. Sometimes it's done by nice people who just never questioned what they were taught. Robert Peterson was 45 years old, been teaching for 20 years, had 2 kids of his own, went to church every Sunday, donated to charity, helped his neighbors. By all accounts, a good man. He'd grown up in that same town, gone to that same school, learned from those same textbooks. His teachers had told him about the brave pioneers and the hostile Indians, and he'd believed them. Why wouldn't he? They were teachers. Teachers told the truth. When he became a teacher himself, he used the same textbooks, taught the same lessons. Why would he question them? The state approved them. The school board bought them. Other teachers used them. Parents never complained. It must be right. He'd had native students before. They always sat quiet in the back, never caused trouble, never contradicted him. He thought they were just shy, reserved, part of their culture, he figured. He didn't realize they were silenced. He didn't realize they went home and cried. He didn't realize they were dying inside, one lesson at a time. That morning, he'd woken up happy. It was Tuesday. He liked Tuesdays. History was after lunch, his favorite class to teach. He had no idea his whole world was about to flip upside down. He made his coffee, kissed his wife, checked on his kids. Normal morning, normal life. Built on a foundation of lies he didn't even know were lies. That's the poison of bad education. It makes good people do harmful things while thinking they're helping. The last minutes of silence, Maya sat in her usual spot in the back row. The clock on the wall ticked toward 1:15. History class. She pulled out her defaced textbook. The red ink looked even brighter under the fluorescent lights. Like blood on snow, like truth on lies. Other kids filed in. Jake Matthews, the quarterback, gave her a head nod. They'd been in school together since kindergarten. He was one of the few who never made jokes about her being native. Brittany Chen slid into the seat next to her. "Hey, you okay? You look intense." Maya managed a small smile, just thinking. "About what?" "About how tired I am of lies." Brittany looked confused but didn't push. That was the thing about Brittany. She knew when to talk and when to just be there. More students came in. The usual chaos of scraping chairs, dropped books, last-minute homework copying. Normal teenage stuff. Maya envied them their normal problems. She'd trade her burden for a failed math test any day. Then Mr. Peterson walked in. Tall, thin, wire-rimmed glasses. Cardigan sweater even though it was warm out. Coffee mug with world's best teacher on it, a gift from last year's class. Afternoon, everyone. Hope you all did the reading on westward expansion. Exciting stuff. The birth of the American dream. Maya's pencil creaked in her grip. He turned to write on the board. Today, how the West was won. Won, like it was a game. Like her ancestors were just obstacles in some grand American victory. Now who can tell me why settlers moved west? Hands shot up. The usual answers: gold, land, opportunity, freedom, excellent. And what challenges did they face? More hands, harsh weather, difficult terrain, hostile Indians. There it was, hostile Indians. Like her people were the problem for existing on their own land. Maya's hand started to rise, then stopped. Not yet. Let him dig deeper first. Let him show everyone exactly what he believed. Then Shed strike. Right. The Native Americans didn't understand the concept of land ownership. They thought the land belonged to everyone, which of course is naive. The settlers brought the revolutionary idea of property rights. Revolutionary. Maya almost laughed. Her people had complex systems of territorial management for thousands of years. They just didn't believe you could own the earth any more than you could own the sky. The Indians lived primitive lives. No real houses, no real government, no written language. The settlers brought civilization. Each word was a nail in the coffin of Maya's silence. No real houses. Had he never heard of pueblos, longhouses, sophisticated architectural structures? No government. The Iroquois Confederacy influenced the U.S. Constitution. No written language. What about the Cherokee syllabary, the Mayan texts, the petroglyphs that told stories across millennia? But she waited. Let him finish hanging himself with his own words. Of course, it was sad that the Indians had to be relocated, but it was for their own good. The reservation system allowed them to maintain their traditions while making room for progress. For their own good. The Trail of Tears was for their own good. The massacres were for their own good. The stolen children, the banned languages, the destroyed sacred sites, all for their own good. Maya's pencil snapped. Now let's talk about specific examples of westward expansion. The California Gold Rush that's when Maya's hand shot up. High, firm, impossible to ignore. The moment had come. The question that started a revolution extended. Mr. Peterson looked surprised. Maya never raised her hand. In 3 years, she'd been the perfect quiet student. The kind teachers love because they never cause problems. Yes, Maya, she stood up. Later, people would ask her why she stood. She didn't know. It just felt like the kind of truth she was about to speak couldn't be said sitting down. Mr. Peterson, my grandmother, speaks 5 languages. He blinked. That's nice, Maya, but we're talking about the gold rush. You said Native Americans were primitive. My grandmother speaks Lakota, Dakota, English, Spanish, and French. How many languages do you speak? His face started to redden. Maya, this isn't relevant to, you said we had no real government. My grandfather served on our tribal council for 30 years. We have courts, we have laws, we have elections. The Iroquois Confederacy had democracy before Europe even dreamed of it. Maya, sit down. You said we had no written language. The Cherokee had a newspaper in the 1820s, in their own language, that they invented. How many writing systems has your culture invented? That's enough. No, Maya said, and the word hung in the air like a challenge. It's not enough. It's never been enough. You stand there every day and lie about my people. You teach these lies to kids who believe you because you're the teacher. And native kids like me have to sit here and listen to you call our ancestors stupid and savage and primitive. The class was dead silent. Someone's phone was definitely recording. Good. Let them record. Let everyone see. You want to talk about the gold rush? Let's talk about how 49ers massacred whole villages for being in the way. Let's talk about how California paid bounties for native scalps. $5 for a head, $3 for a scalp. Is that the progress you're celebrating? Maya. Principal's office. Now, but Maya wasn't done. The dam had broken and truth was flooding out. You want to talk about property rights? Let's talk about the millions of acres stolen through broken treaties. Let's talk about the Black Hills, sacred to my people, stolen the moment gold was found. Let's talk about how every treaty the U.S. government signed with native tribes was broken. Every single one. Mr. Peterson's face had gone from red to purple. I've been teaching for 20 years, and how many of those years did you spend learning real native history? How many native authors have you read? How many native historians have you consulted? How many times have you visited a reservation to see what your civilization actually did to us? She looked around the classroom. Her classmates were staring, some shocked, some recording. some actually listening for the first time. Do you know what it's like? Maya asked, her voice cracking now. To sit here every day and hear that everything your grandparents taught you is worthless. To hear that your culture is just an obstacle to progress. To hear that your ancestors deserved what happened to them because they were primitive. My great-great-grandmother survived the trail of tears. She watched her children die. She walked until her feet bled. She was forced from the land her people had lived on for thousands of years. And you want to tell me that was for her own good? Tears were running down her face now, but she didn't care. Let them see native pain. Let them see what their comfortable lies cost. My grandfather was taken from his family when he was 5 years old, sent to a boarding school where they beat him for speaking Lakota, where they cut his hair and burned his clothes and told him everything about being Indian was evil. And you want to tell me that was civilization? But he survived, and he remembered, and he came home and taught his children the language they tried to beat out of him. And now my grandmother teaches it to me, because we're still here. Despite everything you did to try to kill us, we're still here. She took a deep breath. This was it, the question that would change everything. So I need to know, Mr. Peterson. I need to know once and for all. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? Do you think that being Native American, having native blood, believing in native ways, do you think that makes me stupid? The silence was absolute. Even the clock seemed to stop ticking. Mr. Peterson's mouth opened and closed. For the first time in 20 years of teaching, he had no words. Because that's what you teach, Maya continued. Every day in every lesson, that's what you say. Native equals primitive. Primitive equals stupid. So just say it. Look me in the eye and tell me you think I'm dumb because I'm native. The challenge hung in the air. Everyone waited. Finally, Mr. Peterson found his voice. Go to the principal's office. Now. Maya picked up her backpack, but before she left, she turned to face the class one more time. Ask yourselves why he can't answer. If he really believes what he teaches, why can't he say it to my face? If it's true, why is he so angry that I am asking? She looked at Sarah Crow Dog, at James Running Bear, at all the native kids who'd been sitting silent just like her. And ask yourselves this, if they're lying about our history, what else are they lying about? She walked out, head high, leaving behind a classroom that would never be the same. The immediate aftermath, the hallway was empty. Maya's footsteps echoed off the lockers. She was shaking, adrenaline crash, the weight of what she'd just done hitting her. She stopped at the water fountain, splashed cold water on her face. In the reflection of the metal, she saw her ancestors' eyes looking back at her. Strong eyes, survivor eyes. Behind her, she heard the classroom door open. Footsteps. She turned, expecting Mr. Peterson or maybe security. It was Sarah Crow Dog. That was. Sarah couldn't find words. Stupid, Maya suggested. Beautiful, Sarah said. Terrifying and beautiful, and about damn time. They stood there in the hallway, two native girls in a school that had never wanted to see them as anything but stereotypes. They're going to come for you, Sarah said. You know that, right? Maya nodded. I know, so what now? Now I go to the principal's office. Now I probably get suspended. Now my parents get called. Now everybody gets mad. But Maya managed a small smile, but I told the truth. For the first time in that classroom, somebody told the truth about us. That's worth whatever comes next. Sarah hugged her, quick, fierce. I've got your back, we all do. The native kids, I mean. We've been waiting for someone to say what you just said. Then she was gone, back to class, leaving Maya to walk alone to face the consequences of speaking truth to power. Principal Johnson's dilemma. Principal Michael Johnson was eating a sad desk salad when his secretary knocked. Maya Redfeather, here to see you. Mr. Peterson sent her. He sighed. Maya, she was one of the good ones. Quiet, respectful, good grades. What could she have possibly done? 5 minutes later, after hearing her side of the story, he had his head in his hands. Maya, he said slowly, do you understand what you've done? I asked a question. You disrupted class. You challenged a teacher's authority. You accused him of lying. He is lying. Principal Johnson looked at this 16-year-old girl sitting across from him. Calm now, resolved, not backing down. He'd been in education for 25 years. He'd seen a lot of student-teacher conflicts. But this was different. This wasn't about grades or homework or attitude. This was about truth and history and identity. Maya, I understand you're upset about how Native American history is taught. Him not upset, Maya interrupted. I am done. There's a difference, okay, you're done. But there are proper channels for these concerns. You could have talked to Mr. Peterson privately. You could have come to me. You could have had your parents. My parents have been trying proper channels since I started school. 12 years of proper channels. 12 years of being told to be patient, to work within the system, to not make waves. And what's changed? Nothing. We still use the same textbooks full of lies. We still teach the same racist version of history. Native kids still have to sit there and pretend it's okay. She leaned forward. When do proper channels become just another way to keep us quiet? Principal Johnson didn't have an answer for that. His phone buzzed. Email notification. He glanced at it and his stomach dropped. Someone had already posted the video online. Native student destroys racist teacher was the title. 47 views. As he watched, it jumped to 63. Maya, he said carefully. This is already on the internet. She nodded. Good, good. Do you know what this means? This could follow you forever. Colleges will see this. Employers will see this. So they'll see that I stood up for truth, that I refuse to accept lies, that I have a backbone. If that makes them not want me, then I don't want them either. The view count hit 200. Principal Johnson's phone started ringing. He let it go to voicemail. I need to call your parents, he said. Okay. And y'all need to apologize to Mr. Peterson. No. I'll apologize for disrupting class. I'll apologize for my tone. But I won't apologize for telling the truth. I won't apologize for defending my people. And I won't apologize for asking him to stop lying about us. The phone rang again. This time he saw it was the superintendent. Maya, I am trying to help you here. No, she said quietly. You're trying to make this go away. There's a difference. The view count hit 1,000. The parents arrived. David and Maria Redfeather arrived within 15 minutes. David worked construction. He came straight from the job site, still in his work boots and hard hat. Maria was a nurse at the tribal clinic. She was still in her scrubs. They looked worried, scared. But when Maya explained what happened, something shifted in their faces. You stood up, her father said slowly, in front of everyone. Maya nodded and told the truth about our history. Another nod. Her parents exchanged a look. 20 years of marriage, they could have whole conversations without words. Principal Johnson, Maria said, turning to him. What exactly is Maya being punished for? She disrupted class and disrespected a teacher. By telling the truth, by the way she did it. There are appropriate ways to raise concerns. We've tried appropriate ways, David interrupted. Every year we go to the school board meetings. Every year we ask for better representation of Native history. Every year we're told to be patient, that change takes time. How much more time do our children have to suffer through lies? I understand your frustration, do you? Maria's voice was sharp now. Do you know what it's like to send your child to school knowing they're going to be taught that their ancestors were savages? Do you know what it's like to see your culture reduced to Halloween costumes and sports mascots? The view count hit 5,000. Principal Johnson's phone hadn't stopped ringing. The video, he said weakly. It's going viral. David pulled out his phone, watched the video. His daughter standing tall, speaking truth, defending their people. Good, he said. Good. My daughter did what I've been too scared to do for years. She said what needs to be said. If it takes a viral video to get people to listen, then so be it. She could face serious consequences. She already faces serious consequences, Maria said. Every day she sits in that classroom being told her culture is worthless. Every day she has to choose between her education and her identity. Those are serious consequences. What do you want me to do? Principal Johnson asked. We want the truth taught, David said simply. We want our history included. We want our children to be able to learn without being humiliated. That's a curriculum issue. I don't control, then who does? Who do we talk to? Because we're done being shuffled from one person to another while nothing changes. The view count hit 10,000. The butterfly effect begins by the time Maya got home that evening. Everything had changed. The video had 50,000 views. Comments poured in from around the world. Native kids from Alaska to Florida saying this is my experience too. Teachers admitting they'd never thought about what they were teaching. Parents demanding answers from their own schools. But also hate. So much hate. Ungrateful brats should be expelled. This is what happens when you let them into regular schools. Another angry minority playing the victim card. If they don't like America, they should leave. Maya read them all. Each one hurt, but each one also proved her point. This was what Native people faced. This was the racism that hid behind politeness and proper channels. Her phone rang constantly. Reporters, activists, random strangers who'd found her number somehow. Her parents had to take it away. Tommy came into her room that night. Her little brother looked scared. "Are you in trouble?" he asked. "Yeah, buddy. I am because you told the truth." Maya pulled him onto her bed. "Sometimes telling the truth is the most dangerous thing you can do, but you did it anyway. I did it for you," she said. "So maybe when you're in high school, you won't have to sit there and listen to lies about us." Tommy was quiet for a moment. Then, "The kids at school are talking about it. Some of them. They're saying mean things about you. About us." Maya's heart broke a little. Shed wanted to protect him, but maybe Shed just made things worse. "I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean but Sarah's big sister, the one in high school. She said you're a hero. She said you did what all the Native kids wanted to do but were too scared. What do you think?" Tommy considered this with the seriousness only a 10-year-old can manage. I think you're a brave. And I think Mr. Peterson is a liar. And I think maybe now things will change." "Maybe," Maya said. "Maybe." The view count hit 100,000. The school board emergency meeting 3 days later. The school board called an emergency meeting. The small auditorium was packed. Parents, students, teachers, reporters, TV cameras lined the walls. Maya sat in the front row with her parents. She could feel eyes on her, some supportive, some hostile. The weight of being a symbol when all Shed wanted was to be a student. The board president, Dr. Patricia Winters, called for order. "We're here to address the incident at Lincoln High School and the concerns it has raised about our history curriculum." A parent shot up. "The only concern is that students disrespect. She should be expelled." Another parent stood. "The only concern is that we've been teaching lies. She should be commended." The room erupted, shouting, arguing, chaos. Maya noticed something. The divide wasn't completely racial. Some white parents were defending her. Some were appalled at what their children had been taught. But others were furious that anyone would question traditional education. "Our curriculum is state-approved." Someone shouted. "State-approved racism is still racism." Someone else shot back. Dr. Winters banged her gavel. "Order. Well, have civilized discussion or ill clear the room." When things calmed down, she continued. "We've asked several people to speak tonight. First, Mr. Peterson." Maya's stomach clenched as her teacher walked to the podium. He looked older somehow, tired. His usual confidence dimmed. "I've been teaching for 20 years, he began. "I've always tried to do right by my students. All my students. I use the approved textbooks. I follow the state standards. I've never had a complaint until now." He looked at Maya. She met his gaze steadily. "Ms. Redfeather accused me of lying, of teaching lies. I want to state clearly that I have never intentionally lied to my students. I teach what's in the curriculum. I teach what I was taught. I teach what I believe to be true." "But that's the problem," someone shouted. "What you believe to be true isn't true." Dr. Winters banged her gavel again. Mr. Peterson continued. "I've spent the last 3 days researching, looking at sources I've never looked at before. Native sources, academic papers, historical documents, and, he paused, the room held its breath. And I've discovered that some of what I've been teaching may not be as accurate as I believed. Gasps, murmurs. Maya's eyes widened. Was he actually admitting it? However, he continued, and Maya's hope deflated. The way Ms. Redfeather chose to address this was completely inappropriate. Disrupting class, disrespecting authority, making accusations. This is not how we handle disagreements in education. So she should have just sat there and taken it. A native parent called out. Like our kids have been doing for generations. The room erupted again. Maya takes the stand. When it was Maya's turn to speak, the room went silent. She walked to the podium on shaky legs. The microphone looked huge. The faces in the crowd blurred together. She thought of her great-great-grandmother, of all the ancestors who never got to speak their truth, who had their voices stolen along with everything else. My name is Maya Redfeather, she began. I am 16 years old. I've been in this school system for 12 years, and for 12 years I've been taught that my people were obstacles to progress, that we were primitive, that we were savage, that we deserved what happened to us. Her voice grew stronger. I've sat through lessons about how empty this land was before Europeans arrived. Empty, like my ancestors were invisible, like the millions of people who lived here for thousands of years just didn't count. I've read textbooks that describe massacres as battles, that call theft purchase, that frame genocide as necessary for progress. I've watched teachers skip over our contributions, our innovations, our democracy, our medicine, our agriculture, our philosophy, like none of it mattered, like we gave nothing to this world but problems for white people to solve. She looked at Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson says he teaches what he believes to be true, but believing something doesn't make it true. The earth isn't flat just because people believed it was, and my ancestors weren't savage just because your textbooks say so. He says I was disrespectful. But what about the disrespect I face every day? What about the disrespect to my ancestors? What about the disrespect to native students who have to sit there and smile while our history is erased and our culture is mocked? Yes, I disrupted class, because sometimes disruption is the only way to be heard. Yes, I challenged authority, because sometimes authority is wrong. Yes, I spoke up, because silence was killing me. She turned to the school board. You want to talk about appropriate channels? My parents have been going through appropriate channels since I started kindergarten. 12 years of meetings, 12 years of petitions, 12 years of being told to wait. How long do we have to wait for truth? You want to talk about respect? Teach respectfully, teach truthfully, teach like native kids matter, teach like native history matters, teach like the truth matters more than your comfort. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm not asking you to lie in the other direction. I am asking for truth, all of it, the good and the bad, the accomplishments and the atrocities. The whole story, not just the parts that make America look good. She paused, looking out at the crowd. Some of you think I should be expelled. You think I am a troublemaker, a problem. But I am not the problem. I am the result of the problem. I am what happens when you try to erase a people's history and expect them to be grateful for it. Others of you support me, and I am grateful, but support isn't enough. We need change, real change, new textbooks, new curriculum, native teachers, native perspectives, truth. They say I am just one angry teenager. They're right. I am angry. I am angry that in 2024 we're still fighting for basic recognition of our humanity. I am angry that native kids are still being taught to hate themselves. I am angry that speaking the truth is considered more disruptive than teaching lies. But I am not just angry. I am hopeful, because that video has been seen by millions now. Because native kids across the country are messaging me saying they feel seen for the first time. Because some teachers are reaching out asking how to do better. Because some parents are realizing what their kids have been taught. Because change always starts with someone saying enough. So yes, I disrupted class. And if nothing changes, I'll disrupt it again. And again. And again. Until truth disrupts lies permanently, she stepped back from the podium. For a moment, silence, then applause. Not from everyone, some sat with arms crossed, faces hard, but from enough, more than enough. The view count hit 1 million. The storm intensifies that night. Maya's family had to disconnect their landline. The calls wouldn't stop. Death threats mixed with interview requests, hate mixed with hope. Their address got leaked online. Cars drove by slowly, some honking in support, others yelling slurs. David Redfeather sat on the porch with a baseball bat just in case. Inside, Maria tried to keep things normal. Dinner, homework, bedtime stories for Tommy, but nothing was normal anymore. Maya couldn't sleep. She scrolled through thousands of messages. A native girl in Alaska, you said what I've been feeling my whole life. A white teacher in Texas, I am throwing out my textbooks and starting over. A Cherokee elder in North Carolina, you carry the fire of your ancestors, child. But also go back to the reservation. Ungrateful savage, y'all regret this. Photos of her family stolen from social media, shared with violent comments. At 3 a.m., her grandmother called. Elsie Redfeather was 87 years old, lived on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and didn't usually stay up past 8 p.m. I saw the video, she said without preamble. Grandma, your great-great-grandmother, would be proud. I'm proud. You spoke for all of us who couldn't speak. Maya started crying. They hate me, Grandma. So many people hate me. They hated us before you spoke. At least now they have to hear us while they hate us. That's progress. Is it worth it? All this pain for a few words of truth. Her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. Let me tell you a story. When I was your age, younger even, they took me to boarding school. Carlisle, you know about Carlisle? Maya knew. The infamous boarding school where they tried to kill the Indian, save the man. Where thousands of native children were sent to be stripped of their culture. First day there, they cut my hair. I cried and cried. Hair is sacred to us, you know that. But they cut it off like it was nothing. Then they burned my clothes. My mother had made that dress, beaded it with her own hands. They burned it like garbage. Maya listened, phone pressed to her ear. They told us we were dirty. Our language was dirty. Our religion was dirty. Everything about being Indian was dirty. And if we spoke Lakota, they beat us. If we prayed to our spirits, they beat us. If we tried to remember who we were, they beat us. How did you survive it, Grandma? We held the truth inside, deep inside where they couldn't reach. We whispered our real names in the dark. We taught each other our languages in secret. We kept our ceremonies alive in our hearts. And we waited. Waited for what? For you, granddaughter. For someone brave enough to speak the truth out loud. To say what we could only whisper. To fight the battle we were too broken to fight. I'm scared, Grandma. Good. Fear means you understand how big this is. But don't let fear stop you. Your ancestors are with you, all of them. Every native child who was silenced is speaking through you now. After they hung up, Maya finally slept and dreamed of children with short hair and sad eyes, whispering thank you in languages she didn't recognize but somehow understood. The nation responds within a week. Maya's story was national news. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, everyone had an opinion. Talk shows debated whether she was a hero or a villain. Politicians used her story to score points for their side. But more importantly, Native students across the country started speaking up. In Arizona, a Navajo boy stood up in class and corrected his teacher about the long walk. He was sent to the office. The video went viral. In South Dakota, Lakota students organized a walkout when their school refused to stop using a Native mascot. Their signs read, "We are not your mascot," and Maya was right. In Washington state, Coast Salish teens started a petition to include tribal history in state curriculum. It got 100,000 signatures in 3 days. In New Mexico, Pueblo students filmed themselves teaching real Native history in the hallways. Their YouTube channel exploded overnight. The movement had a name now, Teach True Truth, and it was spreading like wildfire. But with movements come backlash. In Oklahoma, the state legislature introduced a bill to ban divisive concepts in schools' code for anything that made white people uncomfortable. Maya's video was cited as an example of what needed to be stopped. Some schools banned phones in classrooms to prevent more Maya incidents. Others instituted strict punishments for disrupting historical instruction. A prominent radio host called Maya everything wrong with entitled minorities today. His followers sent her family so many death threats they had to move in with relatives. But for every attack, there was support. Native organizations provided security. Civil rights lawyers offered free representation. Celebrities posted selfies with Teach True Truth signs. Most importantly, teachers started reaching out, hundreds of them, asking for resources, admitting their ignorance, wanting to do better. Maya realized she had accidentally started something bigger than one classroom confrontation. She had lit a match, and America's comfortable lies about its history were starting to burn. The lawsuit 2 weeks after the incident, the school board made their decision. Maya would receive a 3-day suspension for disrupting the educational environment. Mr. Peterson would receive additional training in culturally sensitive instruction. No curriculum changes were planned. That's when the lawyers showed up. The Native American Rights Fund, the ACLU, and 3 other organizations filed a joint lawsuit. Not against Mr. Peterson, against the entire school district, for systematic discrimination, for violation of Native student civil rights, for educational malpractice. Maya became the lead plaintiff in Redfeather v. Lincoln Public Schools. The case was simple. Teaching demonstrably false information about Native Americans created a hostile educational environment for Native students. It violated the Equal Protection Clause. It caused documented psychological harm. The evidence was overwhelming. Suicide rates for Native youth highest in the nation. Dropout rates astronomical. Achievement gaps massive. And study after study showing that culturally relevant education improved all of these outcomes. But the school district fought back. They hired expensive lawyers. They claimed academic freedom. They said changing curriculum would be too expensive, too complicated, too divisive. The real message was clear. Teaching the truth about America's treatment of Native peoples was too dangerous to the American myth. Mr. Peterson's journey. While lawyers battled, something unexpected happened. Mr. Peterson showed up at the Red Feather's door. David answered, baseball bat in hand. "What do you want?" Mr. Peterson looked exhausted, defeated, human. "I want to understand. I want to learn. I want to apologize. Bit late for that. Maybe, but I am here." David almost shut the door, but Maria put a hand on his arm. Let him in. They sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Maya had done homework while learning her people were savages. The same table where she had eaten breakfast the morning she decided to speak up. "I've been thinking," Mr. Peterson began, "about what Maya said, about what I've been teaching, about what I was taught, and I realize I've never questioned it. In 20 years, I've never once asked myself if what I was teaching was true." "Why not?" Maria asked. Because it never occurred to me that textbooks could lie, that the state curriculum could be wrong, that my teachers could have been misinformed. It was all so official, so approved, so comfortable. Comfortable for who? David asked. "For me. For people like me. We get to be the heroes of every story. We get to feel good about our history. We never have to confront the ugly parts because they're sanitized or erased or justified." He looked at them with genuine pain in his eyes. "I taught your daughter that her ancestors were inferior. I taught dozens of Native kids that over the years, and I never once thought about how that must feel. I never once considered that I might be wrong. So what do you want from us?" Maria asked. "Forgiveness, absolution. I want to learn. I want to do better. I want to help fix this." "Then start by telling the truth," David said, "in court, to the media, in your classroom. Tell them you were wrong. Tell them the curriculum is wrong. Tell them Maya was right to speak up." Mr. Peterson nodded. "I will. I've already talked to reporters. I've already met with the school board. Some people are calling me a traitor to my race. My own brother won't speak to me, but Maya opened my eyes and I can't close them again. He turned to Maya, who had been listening from the hallway. I am sorry, truly sorry. Not just for that day, but for every day before it. For every lie I told thinking it was truth. For every native student I failed. You deserved better. They all deserved better. Maya studied him for a long moment. Then, help us change things and I'll forgive you, but you have to earn it every day. By teaching truth even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, I will, he promised. I will. The media circus Maya's life became a circus. Interviews, photo shoots, speaking engagements. Everyone wanted a piece of the girl who challenged the system. Some appearances went well. She spoke eloquently on a progressive podcast about educational justice. She participated in a powerful round table with other young activists. She was featured in a documentary about racism in education. Others were disasters. A conservative talk show host tried to trap her with gotcha questions. A morning show treated her like a curiosity rather than a serious activist. A debate with a racist historian turned into a shouting match when he called her people Stone Age relics. The pressure was enormous. Every word she said was analyzed, every mistake magnified. She was 16, trying to be perfect under a microscope while also just trying to be a teenager. The toll showed. She lost weight, developed insomnia, started having panic attacks. Her grades slipped, ironic considering it all started in a classroom. One night she broke down completely. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed to her parents. I just wanted him to stop lying. I didn't want to become this symbol. I didn't want to represent all Native people. I just wanted to be Maya. Her parents held her while she cried. They'd watched their daughter transform from a quiet student to a national figure, and they saw the cost. You can stop, her mother said, right now. Walk away. You've done more than enough, but everyone's counting on me. All the Native kids who see themselves in me. All the people fighting for change. If I quit now, you're 16, her father said firmly. You shouldn't have to carry this weight. Let the adults take over. You've lit the fire. You don't have to tend it alone. But Maya couldn't quit. Not when she got messages from Native kids saying she gave them hope. Not when she saw real changes starting to happen. Not when she knew her ancestors were watching. So she found balance. Limited interviews. Focused on school. Saw a therapist. Remembered she was a teenager first, a symbol second. The trial Red Feather v. Lincoln Public Schools began 6 months after the classroom incident. The courthouse was packed. Protesters on both sides filled the streets. Media from around the world covered it. Maya testified first. For 3 hours, she detailed every instance of educational discrimination she'd faced, every lie in every textbook, every casual racist comment from teachers, every time she'd been made to feel less than human in a place meant to nurture her. The defense tried to paint her as an angry, disruptive teen with a chip on her shoulder. She remained calm, factual, devastating in her precision. You seem very angry, Ms. Redfeather, the defense attorney said. Yes, Maya replied simply. I am angry that I had to learn my real history from my grandmother instead of my school. I am angry that Native kids kill themselves at higher rates than any other group. And part of that is because schools teach them they're worthless. I am angry that in 2024, we're in court fighting for basic truth in education. Wouldn't you be angry? Expert witnesses testified about the psychological harm of misrepresentation. Historians documented the lies in standard textbooks. Educators showed how culturally accurate curriculum improved outcomes for all students, not just Native ones. The most powerful moment came when Mr. Peterson took the stand for the plaintiffs. I was wrong, he said simply. The curriculum I taught was wrong. The textbooks were wrong. The entire system that produces teachers like me, well-meaning but ignorant, is wrong. Maya Redfeather didn't disrupt education. She disrupted miseducation. And we need more disruption like hers. The defense was furious. Their star witness had flipped. The comfortable narrative of a rebellious teen versus a dedicated teacher crumbled. Then came the parade of native students, one after another, testifying about their experiences. The shame, the silence, the slow death of watching your culture erased in real time. Sarah Crow Dog testified about years of staying quiet, of dying inside, until Maya gave her permission to speak. James Running Bear talked about almost dropping out because school made him hate being native. Annie Two Stars, only 13, described crying every night after history class. By the end, even the judge was visibly moved. The verdict and its aftermath, the verdict was historic. The court found that the school district had indeed created a hostile educational environment for Native students. That teaching demonstrably false history constituted discrimination, that the district had violated the civil rights of Native students for decades. The remedies were sweeping. Complete curriculum overhaul with Native input, mandatory cultural competency, training for all teachers, hiring of Native educators and consultants, financial compensation for affected students, regular reviews to ensure compliance, but more than legal remedies. The verdict sent a message. Truth matters, historical accuracy matters, the dignity of all students matters. The school district appealed, of course, said it would bankrupt them, said it was judicial overreach, said it would open the floodgates to every group wanting their history taught. Good, Maya thought. Open the floodgates. Let everyone's truth flow in. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court. By then, Maya was 18, heading to college. She sat in that august chamber, the youngest person there, and listened to lawyers argue about whether schools had an obligation to teach truth. The fact that it was even a question showed how far America still had to go. The Supreme Court upheld the lower court's decision 6-3. Justice Sotomayor, writing for the majority, said, "Education is not indoctrination. Schools have an obligation to teach facts, not comfortable fiction. When historical instruction systematically demeans and erases the experiences of minority students, it violates the promise of equal education under law." The dissent warned of chaos, of endless litigation, of the impossibility of determining truth in history. But the decision stood, and everything changed. The ripple effect continues within 2 years of the Supreme Court decision. 37 states revised their history standards. Native American studies became a graduation requirement in 12 states. Thousands of teachers attended intensive training programs. Textbook companies scrambled to produce accurate materials. Native educators were recruited nationwide. Tribal education departments partnered with public schools, but numbers don't tell the human story. In Montana, a Crow boy named Marcus raised his hand for the first time in history class to add to the lesson, not correct it. In California, a Pomo girl named Jessica wrote an essay about her ancestors' sustainable land management that won a national prize. In Maine, Penobscot students taught their classmates traditional songs as part of the new curriculum. In Florida, Seminole history was finally taught as resistance, not defeat. Native youth suicide rates began to drop. Graduation rates rose. College enrollment increased. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. Hope is powerful medicine, but the backlash was fierce too. Some states passed laws limiting controversial teaching. Some parents pulled kids from public schools rather than let them learn accurate history. Some politicians built careers on opposing woke education. Death threats against Maya continued. She needed security at college. Relationships were hard when everyone knew who you were, what you represented. The weight of being a symbol never fully lifted, but she persisted, studied education and law, wrote a book, started a nonprofit providing accurate Native history resources to schools, spoke at graduations, conferences, anywhere people would listen. And always, she remembered that moment in Mr. Peterson's classroom. The moment she chose truth over comfort. The moment she found her voice. 10 years later, Dr. Maya Redfeather stood before another packed auditorium. But this time, she wasn't a scared 16-year-old. She was the youngest Secretary of Indigenous Education ever appointed, about to address the National Education Association. 10 years ago, she began, I asked a simple question. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? That question led to a movement, a lawsuit, a Supreme Court case, and finally, real change in American education. But I want to be clear about something. I didn't do this alone. Every Native student who suffered in silence made this possible. Every ancestor who kept our cultures alive despite persecution made this possible. Every ally who chose truth over comfort made this possible. Today, Native students learn their real history in schools across America. But we're not done. Black history is still minimized. Latino contributions are still overlooked. Asian American experiences are still stereotyped. LGBTQ+ people are still erased. The fight for truth in education continues. So I challenge you, as educators, to keep asking uncomfortable questions. Keep disrupting comfortable lies. Keep centering the experiences of all students, not just the majority. Keep choosing truth, especially when it's difficult. Because every child deserves to see themselves in their education. Every child deserves to know their ancestors' true stories. Every child deserves an education that affirms their humanity rather than denies it. My culture doesn't make me dumb. Your culture doesn't make you dumb. But an education system that lies to protect its own comfort, that makes us all dumber. So let's be smarter, let's be braver, let's be truthful. Let's create an education system worthy of all our children. Thank you. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. Mr. Peterson's redemption in the audience that day was Robert Peterson, now 55, gray-haired and thoughtful. He spent the last decade transforming himself and his teaching. After the trial, he'd taken a sabbatical, spent a year on reservations, learning from Native educators, read hundreds of books, confronted his own racism, his own complicity, his own comfortable ignorance. When he returned to teaching, he was different. His classroom became a model for culturally responsive education. He co-taught with Native educators. He centered Indigenous voices. He told the truth, even when parents complained, even when the school board pushed back. Some of his former students reached out, apologized for believing the lies he'd taught, thanked him for changing, said his transformation gave them hope that America itself could transform. He never forgot Maya's words, help us change things and I'll forgive you. He'd spent every day since trying to earn that forgiveness. After Dr. Redfeather's speech, he waited in line to speak with her. When his turn came, she smiled. Mr. Peterson, still teaching, but differently now, truthfully now. Good. That's all any of us can do, learn, grow, do better. Maya, Dr. Redfeather, I need to know, have I earned it? Your forgiveness. She looked at this man who'd once taught lies as truth, who'd once silenced her ancestors' voices, who'd once been part of the problem. And she saw what he'd become. An ally, an advocate, a truth-teller. Yes, she said simply, you have. They shook hands, teacher and student. Adversaries turned allies. Proof that people can change, that systems can change, that truth can triumph over comfortable lies. The grandmother's pride, Elsie Redfeather, lived to see 92, long enough to watch her granddaughter change the world, long enough to see Native languages taught in schools, long enough to see the boarding school where they tried to kill her culture turned into a museum documenting its horrors. On her deathbed, she called Maya to her side. Remember I told you about whispering our real names in the dark at Carlisle? Maya nodded, holding her grandmother's weathered hand. We whispered because we had to. But you, granddaughter, you shouted. You shouted our names, our stories, our truth for the whole world to hear. You did what we couldn't do. I just asked a question, Grandma. No. You broke a silence that had lasted generations. You gave voice to the voiceless. You made them see us as human. She pulled Maya close. Your name, Maya, means one who creates illusions. But your true name, the one the ancestors call you, is Truth Speaker. Never forget that. 3 days later, Elsie Redfeather passed on to join her ancestors. At her funeral, hundreds came, native and non-native, students and teachers, all united by the truth that one girl's courage had forced into the light. Maya spoke at the funeral. My grandmother kept the truth alive in whispers so that one day, someone could shout it. I was just the throat the ancestors chose to speak through. But the voice, the truth, the power that came from all who came before, we are still here. Despite everything, we are still here. And now, finally, they have to learn who we really are. The next generation years passed. Maya married a fellow activist, a black historian working to correct lies about slavery and Reconstruction. They had 2 children who grew up in a world where their mixed heritage was celebrated in schools, not erased. When her daughter came home from first grade, excited about the Native American unit they were starting, Maya cried. Good tears, healing tears, tears for all the Native children who'd never had that experience. When her son's teacher asked for Native speakers to visit the class, Maya watched her mother go in and teach basic Lakota to eager 5-year-olds. Watched those babies wrap their tongues around words that had once been beaten out of children's mouths. Progress, slow, sometimes painful, but real progress. But vigilance was required, always, because lies are comfortable and truth is hard, because systems resist change, because there were always those who preferred mythology to history. So Maya kept fighting. As Secretary of Education, she mandated truth in curriculum nationwide. She funded native language revitalization programs. She ensured every American child learned about the Trail of Tears, but also about Native democracy, Native science, Native art, Native survival. Not just Native history either. True Black history, true Latino history, true Asian American history, true LGBTQ+ history. All the histories that had been buried under the comfortable lie of American exceptionalism. It wasn't popular with everyone. She received death threats until the day she retired, was called a destroyer of American values by those who confused lies with values. But she also received letters, thousands of them, from kids who finally saw themselves in their education, from teachers grateful for accurate resources, from parents amazed at what their children were learning, from elders who lived to see their stories honored. The documentary 20 years after that day in Mr. Peterson's classroom, a documentary crew followed Maya back to Lincoln High School. The place had transformed. Murals celebrating diverse histories covered the walls. The library featured sections on every culture represented in the student body. The history department was led by a Cheyenne woman. They filmed Maya visiting Mr. Peterson's old classroom. A young Native teacher, Ms. Crow Dog Sarah's daughter, was teaching about pre-Columbian civilizations. Students of all backgrounds listened with genuine interest as she described the sophisticated societies that existed before European contact. Any questions? Ms. Crow Dog asked. A white boy raised his hand. My grandpa says this is all made up to make white people feel bad. How do we know what's true? Ms. Crow Dog smiled. Great question. Let's talk about sources and evidence. Historical truth isn't about feelings, it's about facts. Let me show you the archaeological evidence, the primary documents, the oral histories that all confirm what I am teaching. Maya watched from the back, tears in her eyes. This was what Shed fought for. Not indoctrination in the other direction, but truth. Evidence-based, nuanced, complete truth. After class, she spoke with the students. They were different from her generation, more aware, more questioning, more comfortable with complexity. Do you know who I am? She asked. You're the lady who made them teach real history, one girl said. My mom says you're why I get to learn about our real ancestors. What do you think about that? The girl, Latino and Native mixed, smiled. I think my culture doesn't make me dumb. It makes me rich. Rich in history, rich in stories, rich in strength. Maya's heart soared. This girl would never have to ask the question Maya had asked. She already knew the answer. The global impact, what started in one Oklahoma classroom, rippled around the world. Other countries began examining their own educational lies. Australia confronted its treatment of Aboriginal history. Canada faced its residential school legacy. Brazil acknowledged indigenous genocide. Maya spoke at the United Nations about the right to accurate cultural education. She met with education ministers from dozens of countries. She became a global symbol for truth in education. But she never forgot where it started, with a breaking pencil and a breaking point, with 8 words that changed everything. International educators came to study the American model, ironic, considering America had been among the worst offenders. But that was the power of change. The worst could become the best if people had courage to confront lies. Not that America had become perfect, far from it. The fight continued daily, but at least now it was a fight, not a surrender. At least now truth had a seat at the table, even if lies still tried to dominate the conversation. The letter to the future on the 25th anniversary of that classroom confrontation, Maya, now retired, a grandmother herself, wrote an open letter to students. Dear truth seekers, 25 years ago, I asked a question that changed my life. Do you think my culture makes me dumb? I asked it because I was tired of lies, tired of silence, tired of being erased in my own education. That question led to a movement that transformed American education. But the work isn't done. It's never done. Because lies are like weeds, they keep trying to grow back. And truth is like a garden, it requires constant tending. So I am passing the torch to you. To every student who hears something in class that doesn't sound right. To every young person who knows their family's stories don't match the textbook's lies. To everyone who feels that breaking pencil, that rising anger, that desperate need to speak. Speak, ask the uncomfortable questions. Challenge the comfortable lies, demand evidence, seek multiple perspectives. Center the voices of those who've been silenced. Your teachers might get angry, your classmates might get uncomfortable, your parents might get worried, but your ancestors will get proud, and future generations will get the truth. You don't have to start a movement, you don't have to become a symbol, you don't have to carry the weight I carried. You just have to refuse to accept lies as truth. In your own way, in your own voice, in your own time. Because education without truth isn't education, it's indoctrination. And you deserve better. We all deserve better. Your culture doesn't make you dumb. It makes you complete. It connects you to wisdom streams older than any textbook. It gives you perspectives the mainstream needs. It makes you who you are, and who you are is magnificent. So speak up, stand up, rise up. The world needs your truth. With love and hope, Maya Redfeather, truth speaker, the unfinished revolution today. As I finish this story, classrooms across America look different than they did before Maya Redfeather stood up. But the revolution she started isn't finished. Maybe it never will be. Maybe that's the point. Every generation has to choose between comfortable lies and uncomfortable truths. Every teacher has to decide what stories to tell. Every student has to decide whether to accept what they're taught or question it. Maya's legacy isn't just in the laws that changed or the curricula that improved. It's in every young person who refuses to let their history be erased. It's in every teacher who chooses accuracy over ease. It's in every parent who demands better for their children. The question, do you think my culture makes me dumb, echoes still. In different voices, different languages, different contexts. Because the fight for truth in education is never over. Because lies shape-shift and return in new forms. Because each generation must win this battle again. But now they have an example. Now they know it's possible. Now they've seen that one voice can become a chorus, that one question can topple towers of lies, that one teenager's courage can reshape a nation's understanding of itself. Maya Redfeather was just a 16-year-old girl who got tired of lies, who decided that truth mattered more than comfort, who asked a question that demanded an answer America wasn't ready to give. but she asked it anyway. And in asking, she gave permission to millions of others to ask their own questions, to tell their own truths, to demand their own dignity. That's how change happens. Not all at once, not without cost, not without backlash, but persistently, courageously, truthfully. One student, one question, one moment of breathtaking bravery. That's all it takes to start a revolution. The only question now is, who will be the next Maya Redfeather? Who will ask the next uncomfortable question? Who will speak the next necessary truth? Maybe it's you. Maybe it's the person sitting next to you. Maybe it's someone who hasn't been born yet, but they will come. They always do. Because lies can only last so long before someone gets tired enough, brave enough, angry enough to stand up and say, "Do you think my culture makes me dumb?" And in that moment, everything changes. Again. Epilogue, the eternal echo. 50 years from now, a student will sit in a classroom. Maybe they'll be native. Maybe they'll be black. Maybe they'll be immigrant. Maybe they'll be poor. Maybe they'll be different in some way that makes the mainstream uncomfortable. And they'll hear something that isn't true, something that denies their humanity, something that erases their history, something that makes them feel less than. Their pencil will creak in their hand. Their heart will pound, their voice will shake, but they'll remember Maya Redfeather. They'll remember that someone before them stood up, spoke out, changed things. And they'll raise their hand, and they'll speak their truth, and the revolution will continue. Because that's what Maya taught us. Your culture doesn't make you dumb. Accepting lies makes you dumb. And we're all too smart for that now. The truth is out there waiting to be spoken. In every classroom, in every heart, in every young person who refuses to be erased. Maya Redfeather lit the match, but we're all keepers of the flame. Keep it burning, keep speaking, keep fighting. The ancestors are watching, the future is waiting, and your voice, yes, yours, might just be the one that changes everything. Again, the end, but really just the beginning.